Alright, so nandito na tayo sa second lesson, which is the circulatory system. No? So kasunod ng respiratory system, nandito tayo sa second part, no, ng ilan sa mga organ system, no, just like yung circulatory system. So yung circulatory system, isa siya sa part ng organ system ng tao, and then usually kapag inaral natin yung organ system as well as their anatomy and physiology, hindi po siya ganun kadali, no, na nakatulad nung elementary days pa lang po tayo, no? So magkaiba po siya, no? So mas lalo lang siyang pinahirap ngayon. So at this moment, so ano nga ba ang ibig sabihin ng circulatory system? So obviously, ito yung organ system, di ba? Marami tayong iba't ibang klaseng organ system sa ating katawan, no, that functions mainly for the transport of materials to the cells, tissue, as well as the organ, no? So it transports nutrients, gases, particularly oxygen and carbon dioxide, minerals, enzymes, hormones, and even water to all parts of the body. So it helps in the removal of the waste from the body. And then meron tayong tatlong component, no, ng circulatory system, which are the blood, heart, at saka blood vessels. So pag sinabi nating blood, ito yung circulating fluid tissue, then which consists of about 55% na yellowish, mostly water viscous fluid called plasma. So the plasma is made up of 7% proteins and 7% protein and about 1% na inorganic salt, no? And some of the other organic substances na naandun sa loob. Yung tanda natin, ha? Isang example ng plasma ay yung dugo natin. And then susunod, these organic substances na tinutukoy ko kanina consist of digested food from the food tube, gases, waste materials, enzymes, and then hormones, no? And then on the other hand, blood also composed of about 45% blood cells such as erythrocytes, no? Yung erythrocytes na tinutukoy ko dito is yung RBC or red blood cells, leukocytes or yung WBC, no, or white blood cells, and then yung thrombocytes, nakalimutan ko i-highlight, no, which is the blood platelets. Yun po yung tinutukoy ko. So yung main function of blood is to transport, no, materials like nutrients, gases, enzymes, hormones, salts, vitamins, and water. It works for the protection through the process of blood clotting, which prevents excessive bleeding and loss of blood when blood vessels are damaged. So it also regulates the pH or yung potential of hydrogen, no, electrolyte, no, electrolyte composition, and even the body temperature. So yung electrolyte composition, ito yung mga micronutrients, yung mga nutrients natin or yung mga micronutrients natin sa ating katawan. So next po, yung RBC, no, or yung erythrocytes, no, they're the most abundant blood cells in the form of red bone marrow of the bones, no. It can be easily identified with its biconcave shape. So hemoglobin is a complex protein that has strong attraction to oxygen. This is why the RBC are responsible in carrying oxygen to the different cells of the body. No, so RBC are lack of nucleus, so they are unable to repair themselves. Thus, they only live for about 100 to 120 days only. So each matured RBC contains hemoglobin, which is responsible dun sa pagkulay ng dugo na maging isang kulay pula, no? Which is literally nakikita natin, di ba? Kapag kadalasan inaasar sa atin tuwing bata pa na kapag nasugatan tayo, may mga lalabas daw na trend, and then usually hindi naman talaga trend yung lalabas, pero kumbaga panakot lang, no? And then yung pula na yun, syempre obviously yun ang nare-recognize natin as dugo, but yung pag-sustain ng red color dun sa dugo na yun, dun nag-exist yung mga erythrocytes or yung existence ng hemoglobin, di ba? And then next po, white blood cells or yung mga leukocytes, so they are larger than red blood cells but fewer in number. They are produced in the bone marrow, while some are in the spleen and lymph nodes, no. So they have nucleus and they are responsible in protecting the body from infectious organism, not unlike the RBC na walang nucleus, kasi sabi ko lang po kanina. So they differ from one another in terms of their characteristics and specific functions. So meron tayong dalawang main types ng leukocytes, just like granulocytes and then agranulocytes. So yung granulocytes, no? So meron silang granular cytoplasm. They consist of neutrophils, no, which destroys bacteria through phagocytosis na nakikita niyo naman sa image, and then eosinophils, it fights the allergic reactions and parasitic infections. And then yung basophils, it regulates the inflammation, no? So yung phagocytosis, kung nagkakaroon kayo ng confusion, no? Yung phagocytosis, ito yung cellular process for ingesting and eliminating particles larger than 0.5 micrometer in diameter, including microorganisms, foreign substances, and apoptotic cells, no? Yan. So kapag sinabi nating agranulocytes, wala naman siyang granular cytoplasm, just like yung lymphocytes and then monocytes. So ano nga ba ang pinagkaiba nilang dalawa? So lymphocytes produces proteins called antibodies, no, which act against the foreign substances, and then yung monocytes, they're the largest leukocyte which transform into macrophages when activated. So ano yung macrophages na yun, no? So they are the specialized cell involved in the detection, phagocytosis, and destruction of bacteria and other harmful organisms. In addition, they can also present antigen to T cells, no, and initiate inflammation by releasing molecules just like cytokines that activate other cell, no? So mapunta na tayo sa blood platelets or yung thrombocytes natin. So they are not cells, but rather they are small cellular fragments that came from the large cells known as megakaryocyte, no, in the bone marrow, no. They function mainly in blood clotting, which includes the following event, no. Ito po yun. So the blood protein or thromboplastin is formed from the certain enzyme released by injured or dying cells and destroyed blood platelets. So the blood protein or prothrombin becomes thrombin in the presence of thromboplastin and calcium ions. The blood protein fibrinogen will be converted into fibrin in the presence of thrombin. This fibrin forms a network in which the RBC and plasma gets entangled. So the resulting jelly-like mass is the clot, no? Kaya in literal sense, siya yung responsible dun sa blood clotting, no? Alam naman natin kung paano nagpa-blood clot, di ba? In every time na tayo ay nasusugatan, and then yun nga, pinalipas natin ng ibang araw, parang naghihilom siya. May parang magko-cover doon. So, next po, meron tayong blood vessels, no? They're conducting tubes that carry blood from the heart to the different parts of the body and vice versa. So, there are three kinds of blood vessels, namely artery, vein, and then the capillaries. No, nakikita naman natin yung boundary nilang tatlo. And then, sa blood vessels, no, meron tayong points of differences, no, kung ano yung meron taglay sa tatlong, ano yung tatlo na yon? Tatlong klaseng blood vessel na ito. So, in terms of muscular wall, meron lang sa artery, meron silang thick muscular wall, and then sa veins, they have a thinner muscular walls, and then yung capillaries naman, walls are one cell thick lamang. Ganun lang siya kanipis, no? So, in terms of lumen, yung arteries niya, meron siya, in terms of arteries, no, sa lumen, maliit lang yung kanyang lumen, and then yung veins naman, malaki yung kanyang lumen, and then sa capillaries, same as with arteries, maliit lang yung kanyang lumen. So, in terms of tissue layer naman, sa arteries, meron tayong 3 layers of tissues with more elastic fibers. In terms of veins, 3 layers of tissues but with less elastic fibers. And then yung capillaries, 1 cell thick endothelial layer. In terms of valves, no, sa arteries, wala silang semilunar valves. Sa veins naman, with semilunar valves. And then sa last portion natin sa capillaries, same as with arteries, wala silang semilunar valves. So in terms of blood pressure, yung arteries natin, blood under high pressure. Sa veins naman, mababa yung low pressure lang siya. And then sa capillaries, blood pressure rises then gradually falls down as blood flows from arteries to veins, no? So in terms of pulse, in terms of arteries, blood flows in pulses, no? And then veins, no pulse, and then capillaries, pulse gradually disappear, no? And then in terms of direction of blood flow, it take blood away from the heart, no? In terms of arteries, no? So veins take blood to the heart, and then sa capillaries take blood from arteries to vein, no? So sa kind of blood, no? In terms of kind of blood, those arteries, they carry oxygenated blood except pulmonary artery, no? So sa veins, they carry the oxygenated blood except in the pulmonary veins, and then sa capillaries naman, the blood that slowly loses its oxygen. So ayan. So ayan yung pinagkaiba nila. Ayan, nakikita nyo naman. So in addition, it is important to note that capillaries are the microscopic blood vessels of the body, and that connects to the arterioles and venules. These are blood vessels that can reach the cell of the different organs. Substances from thin-walled capillaries dissolve in the blood goes to the nearby cells through diffusion, same as the waste materials from the cells diffuse into the bloodstream through the capillary walls. So ganun naman po siya kasimple. So nakita nyo naman yung structure ng artery and vein as well as yung capillaries in terms of their capillary bed. So sa heart, so it is a pear-shaped, highly muscular organ that is responsible for blood circulation. So it is responsible for for pumping blood to all parts of the body, and in return receives blood coming from the different parts of the body, no? So it can be found in the thoracic cavity and covered by a membrane called pericardium. Yan. So ayan siya. Ayan ang pericardium. So alam naman natin, makikita natin yung gross anatomy ng heart, no? In terms of their anatomical view, no? Yan, so, kung talagang trip mo mag-doktor or magte-take ka ng pre-med, talagang kailangan mo talagang alamin yung bawat parte niyan, no? Sobrang halaga niyan. So next po, so the heart is covered by muscular walls called epicardium or the outer muscular wall. Then myocardium, ito yung middle muscular wall, and then endocardium, innermost muscular wall, which are all made up of cardiac muscles, no? It is made up dun sa apat na chamber, right and left atria, and then right and left ventricles. So right and left atria receive blood from the different parts of the body. So the right atrium receives the oxygenated blood or yung oxygen poor blood from all parts of the body through superior and inferior vena cava. And then the left atrium receives oxygenated or oxygen-rich blood from the lungs through the pulmonary veins, no? So yung ventricles pump blood to all parts of the body, thus their muscular walls are thicker. So right ventricle pumps the oxygenated blood to the lungs through the pulmonary artery. So left ventricle pumps oxygenated blood to all parts of the body through the aorta, no? So a septum is a fibromuscular wall made up of collagen, fibers, and muscles. So it is found between the right and left chambers of the heart. So the atrial or interarterial septum is the thinner wall separating the right and left atria. So the ventricular or interventricular septum is the thicker wall between the right and left ventricles. So the main function, no, ng septum is to separate the deoxygenated blood which is found in the right chamber of the heart and oxygenated blood which is found in the right chamber of the heart and oxygenated blood found in the left chamber. So ayun po. So the heart valves are extensions of the endocardial wall of the heart at specific areas. So these are structures that control the heart chambers and prevent the backflow of the blood. Meron tayo dalawang sets ng heart valves which are the atrioventricular valves or inlet valves, and then yung semilunar valves which are the outlet valves. So kapag sinabi nating atrioventricular valves or yung inlet valves, it's between the atria and then ventricles. Meron tayong dalawang klaseng valves sa atrioventricular valve, no, which is the bicuspid or mitral valve. No, it lies between the left atrium and left ventricle. So tricuspid valve situated between the right atrium and right ventricle. Semilunar valve or the outlet valves defined between the ventricles and some major blood vessels of the heart, no? ito yung pulmonary, yung in terms of pulmonary valve, no, it is found between the right ventricle and the pulmonary artery. And then the last one is yung aortic valve. It is located between the left ventricle and the aorta. And, no, so the heart pumps and is filled with blood through the different blood vessels, no. Matadaanan natin siya dito sa susunod na slide. So yung superior vena cava, it is short but large diameter vein located at the anterior right of the heart that collects the oxygenated blood from all the organs and tissues at the upper part of the body. No, so inferior vena cava, it is the large vein situated at the posterior dorsal area of the right atrium that carries the oxygenated blood from all the organs and tissues at the lower part of the body. No, so next po yung pulmonary arteries, no? So the only arteries that carry the oxygenated blood from the heart to the lungs. And then yung pulmonary veins, they are the only veins that receive oxygenated blood from the lungs and drain it into the left atrium of the heart. So coronary arteries, they are the arteries that supply oxygenated blood to the heart itself. And then yung coronary veins, they are the veins that collects the oxygenated blood from the heart, And then yung aorta, ito yung largest artery that supplies the oxygenated blood to all parts ng ating katawan through other smaller arteries except lamang sa pulmonary artery. So in terms of heartbeat naman, the heartbeat normally for about 70 times per minute. However, it is slightly faster in children after doing strenuous activity, no? Or kapag gumagawa ka ng mga matitinding, yun nga, nagtatatakbo sila. And then the heartbeat is caused by rhythmic contraction of the heart muscles. So, the beating of the heart produces a lub-dub, yung ganun nga, lub-dub sound. The lub is the first heart sound caused by turbulence due to the closure of mitral and tricuspid valves, no? And then second sound, which is yung dub, no, so is caused by the closure of aortic and pulmonary valves. So ganun lang po sila, no? So thus the time period elapsing between the first heart sound and second sound defines systole, and the time between the second sound and the following first sound defines the diastole, no? Yung systole, ito yung pump, nagpa-pump siya, and then yung diastole, feeling part, no? And then in terms of blood circulation, ayan, meron tayong dalawang klaseng blood circulation, which are the pulmonary and systemic systemic pala, hindi pala systematic. Systemic circulation. Yan, nakikita ninyo. So the general path of the circulation starts when the blood from the different parts of the body enters the heart through the blood vessels, which leads into the right atrium. Blood flows to the right ventricle when the wall of the right atrium. Blood flows to the right ventricle when the wall of right atrium contracts. Then it goes into the lungs when the wall of right ventricle contracts. The blood returns to the heart from the lungs into the left atrium. The wall of the left atrium contracts, allowing the blood to flow to the left ventricle. Finally, when the wall of the left ventricle contracts, the blood flows to the different parts of the body. So next po, in terms of pulmonary circulation, it's the pathway of blood from the heart to the lungs, no? And then back to the heart, no? And nakita ninyo yung functioning process nila. So it starts when the deoxygenated blood in the right ventricle. When the deoxygenated blood in the right atrium flows into the right ventricle, then it goes to the lungs through the pulmonary arteries. So in the lungs, when the blood reaches the capillaries, exchange for gases occur. Nakikita natin. So oxygen diffuses into the blood while excess carbon dioxide leaves the bloodstream. Then the oxygenated blood returns to the heart through the pulmonary veins. Finally, it flows into the left atrium, then to the left ventricle of the heart, no? So mapunta muna tayo sa systemic circulation kasi tapos na tayo sa pulmonary, di ba? In terms of systemic circulation, it's the pathway of blood from the heart of the capillaries of the different parts of the body and back to the heart. In this circulation, the oxygenated blood leaves the left ventricle through the aorta, so the largest blood vessels in the body. So When the oxygenated blood reaches the capillaries of the different parts of the body, oxygen, food, and other substances diffuses out of the blood and into the tissue, while the carbon dioxide and other waste materials from the cells diffuse into the bloodstream. The blood, which is now deoxygenated, then returns to the heart through the veins, and the cycle will be continuous. So, tuloy-tuloy lang. So, mapapag-usapan natin dito yung common diseases ng circulatory system. So, unahin natin dito yung hypertension. So, ito yung increasing of blood pressure higher than normal level, no? Yung 140/90 millimeter mercury, no? Yung millimeter yun. And then yung Hg, ito yung symbol ng mercury. Tignan nyo pa sa periodic table. So, it causes a genetic predisposition, poor diet, obesity, unhealthy lifestyles just like lack of physical activity, use of illegal drugs, smoking, excessive intake of alcohol, complication of some primary health disorder like kidney diseases, endocrine abnormalities, etc. So, yung symptom nito, ito yung severe headache, fatigue, vision problems, chest pain, difficulty in breathing, irregular heartbeat, blood in the urine, pounding in chest, neck, or ears. No? So yung treatment nito, kailangan natin ng maintenance medication prescribed by the physicians, no? At hindi ng kung sino-sino lang. So depending on the diagnosed cause of hypertension, maintenance of healthy weight, and management of stress. No? So next po yung stroke. It happens when the supply of blood to the brain is either blocked or a blood vessel within the brain ruptures. It causes a fatty deposits or yung plaques, no, because of poor diet and unhealthy lifestyle, blood clots, no, bursting of blood vessels in the brain. At usually, lahat naman tayo ay prone sa ganitong klaseng common diseases or disorder that just like yung stroke, no? Kahit mataba ka, payat ka, kahit nga bata nga, inaatake na rin talaga ng ganitong ano. Kaya ito yung mga symptoms niya at saka ito yung treatment. So, face drooping, arm weaknesses, speech difficulty, muscle weakness in the arm, leg, and face, numbness, and tingling on one side of the body. Vision problems, change in hearing and alertness. Yun yung nakikita nating symptoms for the stroke. And then how about the treatment? So ito yung aspirin, intravenous injection of tissue plus minogen activator or TPA, coronary artery bypass surgery, or treatment depends on the type of stroke. Pero syempre mas lumapit tayo sa mga eksperto, no? At hindi sa kung sino-sino. And then atherosclerosis. Ayan. The hardening and narrowing of the arteries which slowly blocks the blood flow. Nakikita niyo naman yung nagbablock sa kanya, no, which is yung mga lipids, no, and yung mga cellular debris na kulay dilaw, yun yung humaharang, no, dun sa blood flow natin. And then causes are high blood pressure, high cholesterol level, high triglycerides or yung mas tinatawag nating lipids sa ating dugo, no, or sa blood vessel natin, or sa dugo nga, at nag-appear siya throughout our blood vessel. Smoking, obesity, diabetes, inflammation from other diseases such as arthritis, lupus, or infection, or some other kind of infections. So yung symptom nito, ito yung chest pain, pain in the part that has a blocked artery, shortness of breath, fatigue, confusion, muscle weakness, no. So in treatment nito, cholesterol lowering medication can reduce the level of bad LDL cholesterol in your blood, blood pressure, reducing medications, antiplatelet medications prevent clot from forming, no. So next po, anemia. It develops when blood lacks of red blood cells or yung RBC or yung erythrocytes or pati na rin yung hemoglobin. Causes are the body doesn't make enough RBC. Blood loss caused by excessive bleeding, body destroys RBC, lack of iron, and poor nutrition. So yung symptoms nito, ito yung fatigue, paleness, no, body weaknesses, dizziness, shortness of breathing, and then yung treatment nito is kailangan na talaga natin i-sustain yung iron supplements throughout our body. vitamin B12, vitamin C, and folic acid for RBC production, regular transfusion of blood for chronic anemia, no? So, pero syempre, kailangan natin ng recommendation ng mga eksperto at hindi na kung sino-sino. Then, heart failure, it is the condition in which the heart cannot pump enough blood to meet the body's needs. So, causes are the past heart attacks, coronary artery disease, hypertension, heart valve disease, cardiac muscles, inflammation, congenital heart defects, lung disease, alcohol or drug abuse, pati na rin yung smoking. So, ano yung symptoms at saka symptoms nito? It's like yung shortness of breath, fatigue, weaknesses, swelling of legs, ankles, and feet, irregular heartbeat, sudden weight gain, lack of appetite, nausea, and chest pain. No, so yung treatment, no? So, ito yung cholesterol lowering medication, maintenance medication, surgery such as coronary bypass, heart valve repair or replacement, as well as yung heart transplant, no? Pero syempre, kailangan talaga natin, kung gusto natin na ma-resolve yung ganitong klaseng sakit towards sa isang tao, lalapit tayo sa mga physicians or something na yun nga, sa eksperto at hindi sa kung sino-sino. And then yung dengue fever, a painful debilitating mosquito-borne disease caused by any one of the 4 closely related dengue viruses. The cause of this disease is any of the 4 dengue viruses spread by the mosquito or yung mas tinatawag natin na Aedes aegypti, no? So, yung symptoms nito, ito yung intermittent fever, severe headache, joint and muscle pain, fatigue, nausea, vomiting, skin rashes, nosebleed, bleeding gums, lower number of platelets. Sobrang laki ng magiging problema natin lalo na sa dugo. So, in treatment natin, rehydration salts, painkillers such as prescribed by the experts as well as the physicians at lapit at next intravenous fluid supplements or yung IV drip, and then yung blood transfusion for some kind of worst case scenario. And then syempre lalapit tayo sa mga eksperto at hindi sa kung sino-sino. So I think this is the last part, no? Paano natin mapapangalagaan yung circulatory system natin? Since the circulatory system plays a very significant role, katulad na sinabi ko, no, lahat naman sila, no, may important, significant role sa bawat organ systems, no? Kasi kung di nagpa-function yung isang organ system, paano na tayo mabubuhay, di ba? So, it is very important to take care of it to avoid the different cardiovascular diseases. So, proper care for circulatory system includes the following. So, ito po siya. So, avoid smoking and alcohol intake. Exercise regularly or do some activities to keep your body active. Learn to manage stress. Take enough rest and sleep. Eat balanced diet. Then, last 2, avoid eating too much salty and fatty foods and then maintain normal body weight. So, madali lang sabihin pero may mga ibang tao hindi ginagawa yung mga ganito, di ba? Gawin natin, di ba? Yan, gawin natin. And then, yun lamang po yung nilalaman ng aking lesson for your circulatory system. And then, kung meron kayong mga questions and clarifications, leave a comment below. And then, that's all for today. Abangan nyo yung next upload ko. So, see you next time. Bye.